I've got this controller for a long time. I picked it up since launch, so what is that, about 10 months? And then about 5 months ago, I got a PS5. So I've been using this controller on the daily for pretty much 5 months. And I've been playing mostly fighting games on this. After using this for a pretty long period of time, I'm now confident to do a full review on this. I pretty much know the ins and outs of this controller very well now. From things that makes this controller good and something that makes this controller not so good. And in this video, we're gonna get into all of that. Let's get started. Alright, before we get into the fighting game part, I want to talk about the look and feel of this controller first real quick. The build quality of this controller is excellent. Sony uses premium plastic on the controller here, and I really like the clear plastic here where it's kind of see-through. It looks very classy, and the dual tone theme of the controller really grows on me over time. I particularly like this little part right here, see? You see, it looks like a little alien, right? With two eyes here and the antenna. It's a very cute and friendly controller. I also like the RGB effects here around the trackpad. I think this location here is a lot better than in the front of the controller like on the PS4. And this bad boy is pretty big and heavy. You've got 4 motors in there for the haptic feedback. And also on each side of the controllers, there's these mechanisms for the active triggers. You know, one of the best features on this controller is the haptic feedback. It's quite good in action games or adventure games, even first-person shooters really. You can really feel the different terrains that you walk over. So for example, if you walk over mud, it's gonna feel different than you walk over sand or maybe ice. I think this is the one feature that should be in all controllers. So the controller definitely looks nice, it looks futuristic, and it's got a lot of features. However, this controller is quite big and wide. So if you're somebody with smaller hands, I don't think this controller is gonna fit you very well. Alright, here's a side-by-side between the PS4 and the PS5 controller. As you can see, the PS5 DualSense controller is quite a lot wider and also taller as well. But how does it actually play, especially when it comes to fighting games? Alright, let's start with the thumbsticks. I really don't use the thumbsticks that much since I mostly play fighting games, but these have quite a bit of resistance to them. The grip on top of the thumbstick here is actually quite slippery. I wish Sony has used something that's a little more grippy. The shoulder buttons are fine, they're nice and clicky. I do like the fact that there's not much of a gap here between the shoulder button and the triggers. That makes it easier for you to go back and forth between the two. And the triggers are fine, they're just like the PS4 controller. You know what would be cool though, since this has adaptive triggers? You know, I wish fighting games has a feature or an option to effectively activate the adaptive triggers and make this act like a trigger lock, right? Where you only have to press a little bit and then the adaptive trigger will just lock it so that you have less travel. And treat this just like a button, you know? The technology is there, they just need to program it in. The face buttons are good, they work just about what you expect. Right? They're nice and clicky. But of course they're not as clicky as, let's say, maybe the Xbox Series controllers or something with a mechanical mouse switch. But they work pretty well, I would say. But unfortunately the same cannot be said about the D-pad. This D-pad feels a lot more mushy than the buttons, which is weird since they use the same plastic rubber dome switches. The D-pad works well for the most part, however it's not as consistent as you would like it to be. And I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, I can do diagonals pretty easily with this controller, not a problem. Also, circular motions are really good with this D-pad. Yep, no problem at all. So if you're a slider where you slide your thumb around the D-pad like this, you're not gonna have any problem at all because the surface of the D-pad is smooth. You see that? So it makes it really easy for you to go back and forth between the buttons. Where I have trouble with this controller is the double click, right? So for example, I need to do the background row, right? I can't get it 100% of the time. And that's because the buttons don't spring up quickly enough due to the dome switches. Double taps are slow on this controller. Imagine in a crucial moment and you gotta do double tap to dodge and you can't, you're gonna have to eat it, and that's no good. So another way to tell that the D-pad doesn't spring up quick enough, aside from the double tap test, is this. Right, so I'm going to do 9 pp, which is up, forward, punch, punch. Okay, check this out. You see that? Check this out. So I did up, forward, punch, and then the forward remains to the second punch. What this means is when I press the button and lift my thumb up, the button doesn't spring up quick enough and the second punch is already registered. You see that the up input is still there when the second punch has already been registered. Now you see how that's a problem, right? Yeah, so the D-pad is pretty sluggish. It's not very responsive. But you know what's even worse than that is sometimes I would press down and instead of going down, he would do diagonal. So I'll show you what I mean. This is down, right? But if you press the button at the edges, right? And since this is a one-piece D-pad, you press this, the forward button will activate, causing you to do down forward instead of just down. You see that? Right here. In the heat of the moment, you're not going to have time to do it precisely down here. So you're going to just go quickly from one button to the next. And usually your thumb will take the shortest distance, right? So you're going to press forward and then you're going to press down. And this has caused me to drop combos so many times. It's so infuriating. See, I'm just pressing down. You see how many times down forward gets activated, and it works in the other direction too. Look at that. See, my finger is just solely on down, but yet down back gets activated. I think in games that doesn't require precise diagonal or directional movements, you'll be fine, maybe like 2D fighting games. But in 3D games like Dead or Alive 6, where you have to be really precise with your directionals, this is a deal breaker to me. And all of this is caused by Sony deciding to use a one-piece D-pad. You see how every time I press a button, all of the other buttons move with it. That's because they are connected. It's just one piece. I'm pressing back, but then down back gets activated. And when it comes to fighting games, input lag is really important as well, right? And this controller along with the PS5 isn't really that much better than the PS4, and the PS4 has really bad input lag. So unless you use this controller on PC, you can mod the pulse rate on it and make the input lag better. But I don't understand why Sony didn't take this more seriously. Really, all they have to do is just change the pulse rate on it, and then the input lag will be miles better. Despite all of the shortcomings of the D-pad, I still think this is a great controller. It looks and feels phenomenal. It packs a whole bunch of advanced features. I really think when Sony were developing this controller and the PS5, they really want to make you feel that this controller is next gen. So they added a whole bunch of advanced features on it. But along the way, they forgot to actually improving the gameplay and the accuracy of the button presses themselves, which really is a shame. If the D-pad is more accurate, it'll be a perfect controller. I hope Sony will do a pro controller like Microsoft did with the Elite Series controllers. They should update the switches from rubber to metallic. That way the buttons don't feel so mushy and double taps will be quicker. They really also need to fix accidental diagonal triggers on the D-pad as well. So maybe have split buttons instead of having a one-piece D-pad. And while they're at it, they should make the thumbsticks less slippery. Like this thing just slips out of my fingers all the time. And if somehow they're able to shrink the controller a little bit, make it a little bit smaller so that more people can use it, because right now it's on the larger side. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and take care now.